Win more matches with rotation optimizations. Here's what you should know. You should have a basic familiarity with 5-1, 6-2, and 4-2 formations. Have an understanding of the three-person receive using two outside hitters and a libero as primary passers. Understand the rules governing libero use and substitutions. And have a basic understanding of rotation overlap rules. Now, what is rotation optimization? It's the process of getting the most performance out of your team by selecting the right players for the right roles, in the right locations, in the right formations, at the right time. Now, why does it matter? Well, because you can win more matches now. It's difficult to improve your team's skills, but it's not that hard to move the players into the right locations. For example, many of your players may not fit into standardized roles, such as the outside hitters being the primary receivers. It may turn out, for example, that your middle blocker is a good receiver, so you'll need to modify standard rotations. It's easy to move players into new roles and locations on the court, and reducing errors and increasing scoring by putting players in the right spot can gain 2 to 6 points per set. Now, why is optimization not done? Well, first, it's really tedious and time-consuming. Second, moving out of standard rotations can be uncomfortable for both the coach and players. And then non-standard options aren't always very clear and require some creativity. Now, here's some key considerations that are conflicting. Putting the best passers on the court in all rotations, having the best servers in early rotations, having the best hitter combos in early rotations, having the best defenders on the court at all times, and minimizing the impact of weak players. Why rotate 1, 2, 3? Well, because optimizing my hand is slow and tedious. As you can see in the picture, using pencil and paper, whiteboards, and coins and such is really hard to do. Fortunately, my partner and I are both software folks, and we decided to put together this software to help us. How do you build the foundations? Well, let's start with our offense, which starts with the serve receive. If we pass the ball well, then our setter has an easy set, and the spiker gets a good set. Next, on the defensive side, we want to serve well and then block and dig. Now let's look at an example to show how rotation optimization works. This is a real high school team, and I'm grading the team using an ABCD scale. These grades are on a curve, so your best hitter is an A. Now we're not worrying about serving in this particular example, just to simplify it, but you do need a column for serve. So here's the example. I've already pre-selected their basic roles, but you may want to keep this column blank as you try to figure out exactly who should do what job. You need to be open-minded because you may want to shift players into new positions that weren't obvious initially. So we have the key skills of pass, hit, set, block, dig, and other. Now we have one particular thing here, which is that the second setter is tall and the first setter is short. Now let's try a fairly standard formation. Let's use a 5-1, and we'll have the short setter be the primary setter. We'll make the tall setter a middle blocker, and then we'll pick the next best passers up here who can also hit. We have a weak second hitter as a passer, so we're going to sub her with a defensive specialist. So you can see that this is the rotation setup in rotate 1, 2, 3, and S1 sets all the way around. S2 is the middle blocker. Libero subs for middle as a typical offensive setup, and then the DS1, the defensive specialist, subs for the second outside hitter in the back row to help pass. So here's what we get. So the passing looks pretty good. Good, decent passes for the most part, but we have a major problem here because our short setter isn't tall enough to block. Let's try something else. In option 2, we'll go to a 6-2 formation, and we'll take the tall middle and have her set. And then we'll have to use one of our other outside hitters as a middle blocker. So let's look at the setup here. So S1 and S2 are setters. Our OH4 goes in the front row for the short setter, so that she ends up blocking. And then our OH3 becomes our middle blocker. Now the passing hasn't really changed, so that looks good. But now we've transferred the outside blocking problem to a middle blocking problem, and in fact this particular outside hitter is not great hitting out of the middle either, so that we've lost two things. So let's try a third combination. We'll modify a 6-2 and do something somewhat creative here. We'll take the short setter and let her sub for the other middle blocker, and then we'll take the tall setter and let her do both middle blocking and setting. So let's look at the setup. So S1 and S2 are in, but S1 is subbed out by the tall middle blocker in the front row. S2 stays in all the way around. The libero now substitutes for the opposites instead of the middle blocker, so this is a little unusual, but that helps out because then we have our stronger defensive player on the court at all times. So let's see what happens. The blocking side is definitely good, so we have tall players in the front at all times and our tall middles over the middle. However, on the receive side, there's one problem. While the receivers are good, the setter has to release from the left back position, and we can't really move these players forward because this outside hitter is a primary passer, so we need to fix this. Well, in Rotate 1, 2, 3, you have a few options, and in 6-2 you can have the setter following the middle blocker or the setter leading the middle blocker. We'll swap to this mode here and see what happens. Through that simple switch, now the setter is in a better position. She can stack forward with the other hitter, and then we'll have the three good passers back here. In addition, of course, nothing's changed on the defensive side. So let's do a review. 5-1. Passing's okay, hitting's okay, but we have 3 rotations with no right side blocker. Standard 6-2. Passing goes okay, but we have 3 rotations with a weak middle blocker. And the modified 6-2. Passing's okay, we have 6 good rotations for hitting and 6 rotations with good blocking. So I believe this is the best optimized version, and in fact this is what I used this past year and it really worked out well. Now when you do optimizations, you have to think about testing these formations, and it's good to do formalized scrimmages so that your players can come on and come off the courts in proper substitution so they know what to do and won't have to learn that right in the middle of a match. It's good to have preseason matches and tournaments to test various formations. And it's good to have your team learn to adapt to new formations quickly, and you'll find that the more they do this, the faster they get at it, because you know there'll be injuries or some players won't be playing as well by the end of the season as they were in the beginning of the season, so you'll have to make changes. You can share your plans using the summary page and to print that out or send it to them by email, and this way your team can digest the information off court and be able to get ready and going on the court much more quickly.